So right now you're looking at the trailer for the 2024 Steam Spring Sale because as of this recording, I don't think the trailer for the 2025 Spring Sale has actually released yet. And the reason I'm using this is because historically when I've done sales coverage here on the channel, I'm almost always behind the curve. Normally I'll do like a pickups video or games that I recommend after the Steam sale's already rolling, but usually I don't get a chance to actually get ahead of it and give people a heads up on things that might be going on sale or things to look out for when that sale actually happens. But not this time. This time I'm actually recording well in advance of the Steam Spring Sale, which is happening on March 13th, and today's video is really just going over some of the games that I hope will go on sale so that I can fill some gaps in my own Steam collection. And naturally, if you have any games that you're hoping to pick up on sale whenever this kicks off here in about 2 or 3 weeks, I would love to hear what you're looking for as well. But for now, let's go ahead and kick this list off with some survival horror from a long-running franchise that I've been a fan of for a long time, and I'm hoping to finally unify all of its entries, or most of the mainline entries, into my Steam collection, and that would be filling some gaps in Resident Evil. Now, when it comes to Resident Evil, I have kind of a peppered history when it comes to collecting all of the mainline entries. I can say that I do have every mainline Resident Evil game somewhere, and hilariously back in the day, I was one of those people who bought all of the Resident Evils that released on GameCube, like 2, 3, and I think Code Veronica as well, because I was like, hey, this will be the last time I ever need to buy a Resident Evil game because I'll have them all on the GameCube. But as we all know now, that is completely ridiculous because those games just get re-released over and over and over again, and even, just last year we got re-releases of 2 and 3 on Good Old Games where you could download digital copies to preserve forever. But as far as the games that are actually missing from my Steam library when it comes to Resident Evil, I'm missing Resident Evil 4, which I have on PlayStation 5, and then I'm also missing Resident Evil 7, which I have on PlayStation 4, I believe, and then finally Resident Evil Village, which I have on the Xbox because I got the collector's edition for that, and I didn't want to miss out on the Chris statue, but ultimately I'm sure I'll be buying Resident Evil remakes and remasters and ports until the end of time, but I'd really like to start unifying them under my Steam library since PC seems like a place where I can continue to play games from much further back without having to worry about the backward compatibility capabilities of a console. So, that being said, how likely do I think it is some of these are going to go on sale? I would say I'm moderately likely. Actually, a lot of these were on sale as I was making this video, but I didn't buy them because I blew most of my budget on that CD keys experiment from a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah. For now, I'm hoping the rest of these go on sale so I can go ahead and complete my mainline collection there, but we'll see what happens. And speaking of remaster games, albeit this will be less of a classic title and more of a niche game I would say, although one that is still held in really high regard, and that would be the Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remaster, which I still haven't picked up yet. Now I pointed this title out as a game that I missed in 2024 and hope to explore in 2025, and I figure if I've already waited this long to play it and I've only got a few more weeks until the spring sale, why not just wait and see if I get a price drop then? I mean, don't get me wrong, on a long enough timeline, this is absolutely a must-buy for me, and certainly a must-play, given my fondness for the series back in the day, but again, if I can save a few bucks in the process, why not go for it? Now, as far as the likelihood of this collection actually going on sale for the spring sale, I would put it at about moderate, I would say. The game is still fairly freshly released, but assuming that they haven't sold a ton of units for this game yet, and again, it was kind of a niche game, I mean, enough to justify a remaster, I guess, but ultimately I would say if they haven't sold a lot of copies, it might be a great opportunity for them to get it out to a wider audience while letting gamers save a few bucks along the way. Especially considering this is a game from a series that hasn't had a new entry in something like 20 years, so yeah, I think that would be a real win if they did put it on sale just to get it out to a wider audience. And while we're on the subject of paranormal entities, this next one is actually a game that was recommended by MonkDave666, and that would be a throwback to Vampire Survivors called Boneraiser Minions. And I have to say, I really have a fondness for games like this, even though I haven't played Vampire Survivors or a Vampire Survivors-like game in months at this point. I think the last one I played was actually Gunlocked, but I have a certain fondness for Vampire Survivors only because of its obvious quick pick-up and play appeal, but it was also one of the first games that I actually played here on the channel when I was really getting into the Steam Deck and, leaning into that kind of content here. Plus, as an aging millennial, if you have any game that's ripe with 8 or 16-bit graphics like Boneraiser Minions appears to have, then that's gonna be right up my alley as somebody who will always have a fondness for the 3rd and 4th console generations. But I won't just be looking at Boneraiser Minions, rather I'm also going to use this sale opportunity to look for all sorts of games that you guys have recommended, because my general workflow for discovering new games on Steam is that I ask you for your feedback, you reply in the comments, I reply to those comments and mention the word wishlist because I go and wishlist those games when you recommend them, then when it's time time for me to do, like a community collection video or something like that, I just have to search for the word wishlist, and it's very easy for me to find all of the games that you guys had recommended, and in turn go ahead and pick those up during sales, test them out, and then ultimately put together list-style videos of the games that you made me play. And because I'm working on one of those videos right now, this is a perfect opportunity for me to scoop up some of the games that you have recommended. And to that end, do I think Boneraiser Minions is going to go on sale? I think there's a pretty good likelihood at least a few of them will. Boneraiser Minions in particular as an indie title I suspect will go on sale, since it seems like indie stuff tends to go on sale a lot during these, but then also you've just recommended so many different games over the past several months that I'm sure I'll be able to find the deal on one or two, and ultimately roll that into an upcoming community video. So we'll see what happens, but I'm fairly confident I'll find at least some deals on the games that you've recommended. But now let's move on to a few personal picks, starting with one that is not really a game, but rather a whole slew of games that I have unfortunately neglected terribly in the past several years, but I like the idea of grouping them all together onto one platform so that they can judge me silently from the same place, and that will be a ton of the Final Fantasy games. Now when it comes to the Final Fantasy series, my history is spotty at best. I've dabbled in a lot of them, only beaten one or two of them, but I really love what they represent, and I like exploring rich fantasy worlds and turn-based RPG mechanics. The only problem is it's usually such an investment that it can seem overwhelming for a single title, let alone a whole slew of titles, many of which that I've missed over the past several decades. The only ones that I've beaten are Final Fantasy VIII back in the day, Final Fantasy VII Remake more recently, and I'm nearly finished with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But still, looking back at some of the earlier entries, Pixel Remaster seems really appealing, plus I know there are some just iconic moments from the Final Fantasy series that I've never gotten a chance to play. I know a lot of people speak very fondly about Final Fantasy VI, and I really want to know what that's like and what all the fuss was about, but that's also kind of off-putting for me when it comes to Final Fantasy as well, because sometimes I just feel like a series has gone on so long without me playing any of its entries that I have no idea where to jump on at that point. If any of you are a Final Fantasy fan and know more about this than I do, or which games I should prioritize if I'm looking for these on sale, please let me know in the comments below. Now when it comes to sales probability for these, I think maybe one or two could go on sale, but also I'm a little bit skeptical because as I was making this video, a ton of them did go on sale, but again, I didn't jump on them because I kind of blew through my budget doing that whole CD keys experiment this month, but we'll see what happens. And finally, the last game on this list that I'm really looking forward to playing or picking up at some point would be Nine Souls. And a big part of that is just the fact that it's a Metroidvania, and when I thought back on it, I don't think I've really played and completed a Metroidvania since I played Metroid Dread, and I think that was like 3 years ago at this point. I've dabbled in a few, like Ultros for example, but I haven't finished one in quite a long time, and hearing that it's not only a Metroidvania, but also that it has a lot of Sekiro-like elements when Sekiro is one of my favorite games, that definitely makes it even more appealing. And I think one of the things that I find most off-putting about the Metroidvania genre lately is that a lot of them do seem to be roguelikes in nature, which is not inherently a bad thing, but I don't have a ton of extra time to play games, so when I do, I don't necessarily relish the thought of making a bunch of progress and then having to start all the way over because I missed something. Although to be fair, a roguelike would mean that I hold on to some progress, like maybe abilities or advancements that I've unlocked, would just be put further back in the level, but nonetheless, it's one of those things that I appreciate it for what it is, but it's not always my cup of tea. However, as far as I can tell, Nine Souls does not appear to be a roguelike, although it is supposed to have difficulty that is closer to Sekiro, which can be appealing because I do like a challenge. And beyond what I've seen so far, just from its pretty graphics and presentation to just, really engaging mechanics, they're going to put up a stiff challenge, it also seems to be pretty well received because it has about 22,000 reviews and is showing overwhelmingly positive on Steam right now, so yeah, hoping I can finally pick this one up on a discount and check it out for myself. Now, do I think it will actually go on sale? That I'm not real sure about. I don't think I've seen it on sale anywhere recently, so I feel like there's at least some chance that it goes on sale. But then again, if it's sitting pretty at 22,000 positive reviews, maybe the developer and publisher are just like, you know what, this thing's selling just fine as it is, and we don't need to put it on sale. I hope that's not the case, but it's also a distinct possibility. And finally, one more bonus. I really want to play Slitterhead. I was really excited for that game to come out. The fact that it seemed to have like a very action-oriented approach. It's horror. It takes place in this neon-soaked city where you're a spirit who jumps between, multiple beings and battles an evil force. It looks really cool, but I haven't really heard a whole lot about it, and while I do have the demo downloaded, I haven't checked it out yet, so I'm throwing this on as a bonus just because I'm not real sure on this one yet. It's about $50 as is, which is still kind of a discount from the standard pricing you would expect, but if this thing drops to like 20 or 30 during the sale, I'm almost certainly going to jump on it because I sure do love me some horror and also, again, a stiff challenge from an action perspective. And given that I haven't heard much about this game since its launch, I think a sale could be pretty likely for this one. But if I had to pick a game out of all these that I'm most excited for, it's probably Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered. I had a great time playing The Thing, and I'm still playing through The Thing Remastered, when that came out right at the end of last year, I'm sure it's going to be the same thing for me when it comes to Soul Reaver, as somebody who just wants to see that world again, even if it's just a remaster of games that I've already beaten. So yeah, I think that's the one I'm probably most excited about. But hey, what about you? Are there any games that you are hoping to pick up at a discount this spring sale? Because if so, I would love to hear about it in the comments below, especially since I do use those comments to make the games you made me play videos, so that's always helpful to get back. Now, as far as what's coming up on the channel, I know I've been talking about doing retro stuff for a couple of weeks now, but now I am finally moving forward with trying to do a mini arcade of sorts and trying to cobble together a Steam Deck arcade experience. Just something small, lightweight tabletop, kind of like my own version of an arcade one-up, I guess. And then also we will be looking at the games releasing in March here in the next week or so, so stay tuned for that. As always, thank you so much for your time and hanging out here on the channel with me. I really, really appreciate it. Have an amazing day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.